Ladies and gentlemen, the Mercedes AMG G63, and that radiator has been on for the past 5 minutes. I did another shot without the glasses, put my glasses on, and this is still making a noise. What that means is that 4-liter twin turbo engine that powers this monster produces so much heat that it takes almost 10 minutes for it to cool down. The legendary G-Wagon in its AMG format has been completely transformed where it matters. Let's start with this review. So we have popped open the bonnet and the radiator has still not stopped. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the 4-liter twin turbo engine that powers this beast. But I'm going to show you something really special. All of these engines are handcrafted in Germany, and this special engine has been handcrafted by an Indian from what we can see here. It's G63, which clearly is an Indian name. So while this car was built in Germany, the engine here was built by an Indian. So proud of that fact. And while the radiator finally shuts down, we can start talking about the rest of the things about this beautiful machine. Now, this is a legendary design, and in terms of its size, this is shorter than the Defender. Well, it's shorter than the Wrangler also, but this is taller than the two of them. The design is as it always was. There are not many changes. However, on the lower bumper, these air inlets are now bigger, and a lot of things that you see here, including these carbon fiber inserts, this black Mercedes-Benz logo, and a lot of other things are custom on this car. And while the ex-showroom price of this car is 3.64 crore rupees, if you have all the accessories that you see fitted on this car, you can take it all the way up to 5, 6, 7 crores. Literally, sky is the limit. The wheels, the color of the car, the interior, the exterior, the trims, you can really kit it out the way you want. And on your screen right now, you can see all the options that you have. So with that out of the way, let's also talk about these headlights. Now, these headlights are intelligent units with 84 individual LED pieces, and you don't really have to fiddle with the headlamps for high and low beam. All of that is taken care of by this unit all by itself. The blinkers sit right here, and they look very muscular, and they have a special place on the bonnet. When you look at them from behind the steering wheel, they look really nice, and the feeling from inside the cabin is really special. You really feel like you are sitting 3 stories up. Everything else on the road dwarfs down. And even if I compare this with the Wrangler, I really think that the seating position is slightly higher. Nothing much has changed on the side except for the fact that the suspension here is now completely revamped. And in its previous avatar, when I drove this car, I didn't like it at all. The handling was terrible, to say the least. It rolled and it was quite unwieldy. But now in its new avatar, must I say, with the active ride assist, active damping, it has become a different monster altogether, and it rides and handles a lot better. More on that later. But as you can see, these wheels are absolutely smashing to look at, and the red calipered AMG branding is peeping over those monstrous discs, both up front and at the rear. 22-inch wheels with 295 section tires up front and 295 section tires at the rear. The unladen ground clearance on this monster of a machine is 241 mm, and peeping from what you might mistake for a footboard, it's not very useful, let me just put it that way. But these twin AMG exhausts create a sound which is absolutely beautiful to listen to. Let's have a listen. Now, while you may not be able to see it in the first glance, but another big change that has happened here is that for the first time, the G63 gets a proximity sensor, but they have not compromised with the signature thunk of the doors, and you have to press this button And just listen to the sound of the door when it shuts. It's unmistakable. And what's even more beautiful is when you unlock the doors from the inside. I'm going to give you a listen to that sound as well. It's almost like loading or unloading a rifle. It's a beautiful sound, and a lot of engineering goes into making sure that this car sounds the way it does, not just through that exhaust, but through all its mechanical body parts as well. And what this means is that this car is proven off the road at the Austrian off-road track in Graz. Of course, in its new avatar, this car gets a 360-degree camera, and the signature sound of the tailgate can also be clearly heard. You have the stepney mounted at the rear. But what's really amazing is that you can spec this car out in a manner which is quite unique, and this teak wood floorboard that you see here is also spec'd out on this specific car. You'll have to pay extra for that. Over 600 liters of boot space. You have this illumination here and a 12-volt power socket, and this parcel shelf as well. Seats are 60-40 splits, so you have the option of extending your boot space if you so wish. Of course, you see the 360-degree camera unit here, but again, for the first time on the G63 AMG, you have AMG projection from the ORVMs, and it's time now to get inside this beautiful car. Now, like I mentioned, this footstep is not very usable because this does not extend out too much. Also, this is quite high, so to get inside, you still have to climb. And for the shorter ones amongst you, and for the ladies who are not too tall, getting inside this car and getting out can be quite a chore. Once you get inside though, quality abounds, and the new G63 AMG is more luxurious than ever, and all of the buttons here, the leather, the carbon fiber, the Burmester sound system, all of that is more luxurious than the G63 AMG has ever been. And like I mentioned, you can specify the interior in the color and the material of your choice. You get touchscreens for the first time inside this car. And let's now have a look at the wonders of the G63 AMG from the inside. Now, before we start talking about anything else, the one thing that you would instantly notice is how high you are seated in this car, and the visibility is absolutely fantastic. In terms of dynamic ability, this car has improved, but the aerodynamic ability of this car is still as bad as it always was with this steep windscreen. But what it really aids is the overall visibility, and like I mentioned, what really stands out is the way the doors lock and unlock. Just listen to that sound. I'm going to unlock the car now, and from the inside, when you shut the door also, it's a feeling of solidity and a tank-like build, which is absolutely incomparable. So that feeling of solidity is something which is very unique to this car. All the window buttons are placed here. You get ventilated as well as heated seats, and you also get a 3-way memory, and you get all the controls for your seat adjustment right here. But the big change here is the inclusion of the NT-G7 latest generation MBUX, and now this car is loaded with infotainment tech as well. An 18-speaker 760-watt Burmester sound system with Dolby Atmos. Absolutely rocking system. Also, just the way the doors lock and unlock, the clicks and the other sounds associated with a lot of other functions of this car, including the way the buttons function, is absolutely amazing, and that's what really makes this car special. The steering wheel is this 2+2 and 1 spoke unit, and it is quite advanced. You have the controls for changing the drive modes right from the steering wheel itself. You press this button and then you use this dial to change the modes, and that's such a convenience. I can use these two buttons to customize my driving experience, and I can change the engine, suspension and AMG dynamics setting. Now, the AMG dynamics has more to do with the electronic nannies, the ESC, and once you take it to the Pro mode, essentially there would be minimal intrusion from your electronic aids, and you can slide the car a lot more. This car also comes with AMG track pace, which allows you to time yourself across sectors and laps on various different tracks in the world. And if you really talk about the modes that you have, you can choose from a variety of modes. So you have the snow mode, where if you are in the mood to save some fuel, You can also put the engine in the reduced mode, in the individual mode, but in any other mode, including Comfort, Sport and Sport Plus, it doesn't allow you to go to the reduced mode. So if you want fuel efficiency, if you're not in the mood to drive it too fast, you would be able to choose the reduced mode only in the snow and individual modes. Now you have Comfort, you have Sport and Sport Plus modes, and of course you also have this off-road cockpit. It comes with 3 differential locks: the front diff, the central diff and the rear diff. And by pressing any of these buttons or by pressing the off-road cockpit, you'd be able to see a lot of information while off-roading. So you'll be able to see the wheels turn angle, which diff is locked, and a lot of other information, which is obviously fantastic. This car also comes with transparent bonnet, so you're able to see where you're driving. You can see underneath the car, and that's such a blessing while you're driving alone off the road without a spotter. Finally, you also have the low range mode, and if you plan to be crawling over rocks or climbing some very steep surfaces, the low range mode can be turned on. A lot of buttons here are also physical, which is fantastic, because generally if you have to fiddle around with the screen, it's not a very good thing, and Mercedes-Benz have made sure that all the essential functions have been placed as hard buttons as well. In addition to all of that, you also have a lot of controls here. So you have this touchpad here. You can go to the home screen, you can seek, and you also have this touchpad which you can use to browse through all the screens. Needless to say, for the instrument console also, you have all of these controls, and you have a lot of modes also to choose from, like you have in a lot of other cars. And like I mentioned, you have the track pace mode, which lets you see the G-forces and everything else. And you also have the super sport mode here. These are more visual modes. You have the sport mode and all the regular modes also, which are classic, understated, navigation, assistance, off-road and service modes. The point that I'm trying to make here is that now the G63 AMG is tech heavy as well, and it is keeping pace with times with all the modern softwares and screens and high-tech infotainment system. You also have this little sunroof here. I'm pretty sure a lot of the AMG buyers would want it to be panoramic. It's not available, but what I can tell you is that the quality of materials that you see here, especially on this special manufacturer edition, is absolutely top-notch. There is generous use of carbon fiber everywhere, and not just on the dashboard do you see high quality leather, but even on the headliner you have some really high quality materials, and that's such a rarity to see. It's really amazing how much attention to detail has gone into this car's interior. And while Mercedes-Benz is charging a premium, while you sit inside this car, you do feel that this car is absolutely special. Now, another important thing is that you can also control how the exhaust sounds while sitting here, and you press this button and the exhaust icon comes on, and once you engage it, the sound from the exhaust is amazing. We're going to be driving this car and you'd be able to listen to how it sounds as well. But for now, let's also have a look at the practical aspects of the car. And you have this massive cavity here. It can really swallow a lot of stuff. You have a Type-C USB socket here. This infotainment screen is enabled for wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You have additional 2 USB-C sockets here, a wireless charger, and 2 adjustable cup holders which can also double up as a storage space. Another great thing is that the cup holders here are both cooled and warmed, so if you have a hot cuppa or a cold drink, it can stay that way. The storage space in the door panels also is very generous. So from a comfort perspective, it's not that great because of the ride quality, but from a convenience perspective, from storage space perspective, there is not much to complain about. The glove box is not all that large, but I guess it's not too small either. Now, apart from all the drive modes, since this is also a legendary off-roader, once you go to the off-road cockpit and put the car in neutral and select which differential lock you want to engage, you can choose from sand, trail and rock modes, and you also have this slide option in case you want to have some fun off the road. So all of these options are there once you engage one of the differential locks. Unlike a lot of other cars, like say the Defender, this car does not come with air suspension, so you cannot really raise the ride height, but I guess 241 mm of ground clearance laden is more than sufficient, and this car has proven its mettle over a variety of trails. Although I really suspect whether someone who buys this car is actually going to take it out off-roading. Having said that, this is a very capable off-roader and has proven its mettle over the ages. Talking of seat comfort, these seats are also heated and ventilated, and they can also be specified with massage function. Although you don't have many options to choose the variety of massage that you want, but you actually can specify massage function also in the seats. Talking of family, if you want to be traveling with your better half and your kids, let's just see how comfortable or otherwise the back seats are. You'd love to open the door because of the sound, of course, but to get inside is not all that comfortable. The doors are not too big, they don't open too wide, and like I mentioned, the seats are way too high and getting inside can be a little bit cumbersome. Also, once you get inside, you would realize that the knee room and the leg room for a car this size is definitely lacking, to put it mildly. And the screen, which by the way is optional, is right in my face. It's almost like I want it to go away. So the space here is somewhat cramped, and if you want to be ferrying your family in comfort, this space is going to be somewhat lacking. I really wish these seats were sliding because there is a ton of space in the boot, and if that space could be released in the form of legroom and knee room, it would have been fantastic. The headroom though is not a problem, and I absolutely love the fact that Mercedes-Benz have not cut corners, although this has to be specified, but if you want the luxury to be felt on the roof as well, it stretches all the way back to the tailgate of this car. You get this armrest with two cup holders, and you actually can access the boot as well, like so. It gets all three adjustable headrests. Although I would have liked it to have a 4-zone climate control, it gets only 3. You have blower control, AC vents, and as many as 2 USB-C sockets and 2 HDMI ports to feed these screens with entertainment. You get these LED lights here. I like the fact that they are yellow. I prefer them over the white. And you can see that the 760 watt Burmester system has its speakers placed all across this cabin. All in all, not a very highly rated back bench, and I would say that this is suited only for short to medium journeys. Not one of the most comfortable back seats. It doesn't have enough space, and also the ride quality is nothing to write home about. Before I get out, this rather useless feature for India is also present. You'd want the seats to be ventilated, not heated, but I cannot complain about the amount of space that you have in the door panel, and you can easily place a big 1-liter water bottle in that panel there with some space to spare. Now about the performance, the 4-liter twin-turbo engine is essentially the same, except for the fact that now it has seen some enhancements. It gets low friction parts, better heat dissipation, and an aluminum forged piston, so you can push it harder for longer. And just listen to that soundtrack. What it also gets is a 48-volt mild hybrid system, which, when you push it like this, assists it with an additional 22 HP of power. All of that power and torque can propel this monster from 0 to 100 in 4.5 seconds flat and give it a top speed of 220 kilometers per hour. But this specific car with the driver's package can be pushed all the way to 240 kilometers per hour. But the real deal here is the way this thing handles. Now, this is not a sports car for sure, and no one should have any misconceptions about the fact that this is a near 3-ton monster, and to expect that this is going to handle like a Porsche or another sports car is too much of an expectation. But what I can tell you is that when I drove this car the last time in its previous generation, it was not a patch on what it is right now. So the redesigned suspension setup with the active ride control comprising of active hydraulic stabilizers lend this car with commendable stability around corners, and while it doesn't ride flat, it rides with a lot of poise, and you really can push it around corners now. Such was not the case earlier. If you turned this car, you really had to wait, and it was almost like you were driving a double-decker bus. But now, in its current form, you actually can have some fun in this car, and that's such an amazing thing, because otherwise all of that power felt so preposterous. The steering feels very true. There is tons and tons of grip from the 295 section rubber, and just listen to that soundtrack. You actually can drive this car fast, and it does belie its size. It has a body on ladder frame chassis, and for something which is not a monocoque, I must say that the G63 now is incomparably more fun than what it used to be. An active role is played by the Speed Shift TCT 9G, which is a dual clutch transmission, much faster than the standard 9G fare. And if you're someone who bought this car only for the looks of it, in its current avatar, it also has the firepower and the nimbleness to justify the price tag, at least to some extent. So if you're someone who had the previous gen G63 and you switch over to this car, you'd really see that there's a world of difference. What has also changed is the ride quality, which is slightly better. But having said that, this is still quite stiff, and at slow speeds can feel quite lumpy. But on well-paved roads like this is where this car really comes into its own and can be a lot of fun. Like I told you, there are a ton of customizations available. You have various different drive modes. You have comfort, you have sport, sport plus, you also have the snow mode, and in the off-road modes also you have a ton of options. Then you can also customize how you want the engine, the transmission, the suspension system and the electronic nannies to function, and all of that can be controlled with a flick of a button, which is fantastic. And on top of that, if you really think that this car is fast enough to be driven around the track and compete with proper sports cars, you can also use it on the track in a specific mode where you'll have all the telemetry. You also have modes where you get launch control, and you can time yourself for quarter mile as well as for a drag race. All in all, I have no complaints whatsoever. Based on my experience with the last car, I really think that someone for whom money is not a concern would do a lot better buying this car compared to what the previous car could do. Off the road, again, thanks to the new suspension, the wheel articulation is better. The wheels travel a lot better, and the drama visible on the wheels when they lifted up has been reduced to a large extent. And like I mentioned, those who buy it are not actually going to be using this car off the road in the true sense of the word, but if you so wish, this car is more than capable. Well, this is an experience, and I think you'd do a lot better just listening to those sounds as I drive on these beautiful roads. Just listen to the pops and the crackles, and just listen to the way this car blips the throttle all by itself, and the sound of the exhaust and the engine. Let the car do the talking. Well, for those for whom money isn't a concern, this car really doesn't have a replacement, because the kind of legacy that it has in terms of its off-roading prowess and also the kind of performance that it offers on the road, even if it's for a crazy price, I don't really think there's a real alternative to this car. And if the heart wants it, it wants it. It has unmistakable street presence, and I can attest to the fact that this thing attracts attention on the road like nothing else. If you really want to have a comparison with another car, maybe the Defender 5.0, which is a 3-door car and is available for a lot less than half the price of this car, can come across as an option in terms of the kind of performance that it offers. but the kind of presence that it has, the kind of segment that it plays in is something which is absolutely incomparable. And the good thing here is that while I did not like this car much when I drove it the last time, this time it came across as a lot more agreeable to me. I like the fact that the handling has improved massively, that the performance is a lot more usable, and even if it has improved by a little margin, the livability with this car has also improved, although the price has gone up by almost 100% as compared to the previous version. But the crazy thing about this car is that it holds its value really well, and there are people ready with cash to buy it from people who already own it. So if you have tons and tons of money, if you want to be noticed, and if you are ready to live with a little bit of inconvenience and discomfort, the Mercedes-Benz AMG G63 is something which is totally incomparable and will get you attention like nothing else on the road. And the icing on the cake is that you actually can use this performance on a variety of terrains, unlike a lot of sports cars which will simply refuse to move off a well-paved tarmac. I really hope that I was able to answer all the questions that you had about this car in this detailed video. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe to Motoroids, and until next time, this is your friend Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and rev safe.